All right, guys, it's another video from SourceFind Asia. This time we have the founder of SFA, ChinaMike. He's joining us. Today we're going to talk about how to build a relationship with your supplier.
Can you walk me through the points, kind of like the summary of what a typical relationship building process looks like with supplier from like the very beginning? How does it start, and what can you expect in terms of timeline and progression?
I think you have to approach it from a couple different angles. Like if you're in China, it's a different angle. If you can speak Mandarin, it's a different angle. If you're outside of China, it's a different angle. So I think if you're outside of China, expect it to take longer than you think. Mike's made this joke before where he says the Walmart thing. Do you know the Walmart thing? You remember? That sometimes people treat China like a giant Walmart.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, just go to aisle 3 and pick up these gloves.
But you're in China, right? You can get that. You can get that, right? You're in China.
Yeah, in China. It's easy. And it's like, no, like
make a few changes.
Yeah,
check them out.
There's a process to everything that you do here, which includes finding the suppliers and the initial communication and all that stuff. So like if you're outside of China, being able to present yourself in a professional way that allows the factory to kind of like see that, oh, this guy's a serious buyer, meaning like you're asking the right questions, you've done your research, you're presenting them with the information they need from the beginning, whether it's design files or, you know, order quantities and timelines and things like that. And then if you're in China, then, you know, being able to tell the factory, hey, I'm in China, I can come and visit you guys. They'll take you a little bit more seriously. And then if you're working with somebody who speaks Mandarin or you speak Mandarin yourself, again, being able to hop in a call with the factory and speak their language, like that will shorten the process. But again, it's a different process for everything that you do at the beginning.
Yeah, I think showing face here is extremely important. Getting in front of people and you know, showing that you're real is important. But to answer your question, from where it starts, I think it's the research phase. Depending on the project, of course, you know, you have to locate a potential supplier prior to having these face-to-face meetings, and a lot of that is based off their presentation online. You know, how their Alibaba site looks, how their website looks, most definitely their communication via WeChat or QQ initially. It's how most factories you're going to contact with communicate. You know, how quickly they respond, how visual they are is important for me, and initially finding a good supplier. We're in an age where everything's video. You know, you can send me quick 9-second WeChat snaps of the factory. What are you doing right now? Let me see your office right now. I think that helps, and establishing that early is important. You know, just a good conversation flow and constant updates, really.
So at the very beginning, when you're just finding factories, what would you say is like the 80-20? Like what are the 80% or the 20% of the interaction that yield 80% of results? Like what do you look for? And what are some of the questions that you ask and the things that you look for that people normally miss or normally don't look for?
I think personally with us, like the most basic thing is, Mike touched on a few things, is the speed of communication. Are they answering all the questions that we're asking? And then just if they can meet the minimum requirements, like, so if you have a target per unit cost, right? And let's say your target per unit cost is $1.50, and then this factory is quoting you $2. But you want to work with this factory because they look amazing on paper. It's like, it's just, you're starting off from such a different point in negotiation that it just doesn't make sense to even bother. You know, so like some certain minimums need to be in place. I think some of the questions that we usually ask at the beginning is, if we'll present them with a product and say, we're looking for this product, these are the dimensions, this is the market that we're selling to, this is our order quantity, can you match that? These are some of the problems that we faced with dealing with other suppliers. Can you fix these problems? And then can you hit this target per unit cost? I think those are the basic initial questions you're gonna ask. And then it depends on your product, right? So like some products have safety requirements, so those are questions you should be asking from the get-go. If you're selling a plastic water bottle to the US, it needs to be FDA certified. You can't just ship any plastic product. So you have to make sure the factory has those certifications in place. If they don't have them in place, then are they willing to actually go through that process? How long is that going to take? So those are some of the initial questions you want to be asking. And yeah, I mean, if they can't meet those requirements, like what is the point of communicating with them further? You know?
Right. And how deep they look into your project for me is also really important when establishing a relationship with what I consider to be a good supplier. Is you'll meet some people and right off the bat, how many units, how much you gonna pay? You can tell they're just thinking about the end goal. But a good factory will get to know your product, try to understand your situation and your order, what type of business you're doing.
What does that look like exactly?
What do you mean?
Them getting to know them, not only hearing about the price, but then getting to know your business.
Just asking in-depth questions about the product, you know, finding out if you have a sample, really researching the materials, discussing how you're going to physically produce it, you know, what aspects of the product is technology-based, what aspects of the project do you need manual labor. You know, they'll dive into these subjects with you if they're a quality supplier.
Yeah. And in terms of your customers that you guys get that use your services to kind of be their office and their like man on the ground for dealing with Chinese factories, what do you see that outsiders, some of the worst case scenarios, like what are some of the potential customers or past customers that have done like the worst case possible versus the best case? Like what's for you?
In terms of initial communication?
In terms of people's perspective of dealing with factories, like what have you seen like the worst stuff and the best stuff of people coming in, maybe even guys and girls who haven't even been to China but dealing with Chinese and like the perception they have of China? What's like some of the worst and some of the best that you've seen? I
think the worst, you know, the story that I'm going to talk about is, I'm not going to go into details in terms of the actual product or whatever, but it was a bag. The client approached us around Chinese New Year, and he was just kind of like, I need this product to be done before Chinese New Year. And it's like, we've got like a month, this is the first time we're communicating with this guy. It's an original design. We've got like a month and a half to complete the project. He's approached us, he's saying like, I have a factory lined up. So in my mind, when you say you have a factory lined up, you've communicated with these guys, they know your requirements. It's just about like doing some vetting and then placing the order.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, in that situation, like we're cutting 2 to 3 weeks to a month of communication. And I'm like, all right, so we can take on the project because of that. But in reality, all he had done was find the factory, sent them one email, and then come to us and then like, I need this to be done before Chinese New Year. You've got a month and a half, go. And then it's like, we're doing all the communication. It's like, it takes much longer than that. And your expectations of getting a product done well without doing any sort of upfront research and communication is just completely unrealistic. Anytime a client approaches me or works with a factory and they've only talked to like 1 or 2 suppliers and then they jump in without communicating everything up front is always a mistake.
Yeah, some of the worst case scenarios you can find is just that, like aggressive expectations of the production process, especially during the development stage. Like thinking that, oh yeah, we're just going to change this and that, and we're going to get it done in 3 months. That's definitely where the most problems fall. I
think what happens in those situations, and like I think that that's what happened with this guy was, he pretty much expected that the factory was going to design the product for him. And he was like, oh, they're a professional factory. They'll know how to do everything. It's like, no, dude, that's not. You are the client. You are the seller. You need to come and give them the designs. You need to pick the materials, pick the colors. Like that's all falls on you. If you expect the factory to do that, you're going to end up with a product that you're not happy with. And that stuff takes time. Like it takes 2 to 3 weeks to discuss these things, look at samples, look at colors. Sometimes you might pick a color and then they'll come back and be like, we can't find it in the market. Like
it's
a big back and forth. Yeah.
What can you expect in terms of like original design or just finding a factory that produces like one specific product? What kind of timelines can the customer expect?
Finding or just the whole process?
The process.
I'd say at minimum 6 months to a year.
So that's like
for original design.
For product development.
Product development, 6 months to a year.
Depending on,
you have like the everything charted out. And you're just like, now I need to find a producer, like supplier, to make this for me. That takes 6 months.
Six months to a year, yeah. Also depending on what kind of molds you need for the product.
That's
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
really long.
For a new product, yeah.
The fastest we've ever done original design development was 6 months, and that was after we'd already gone through a year developing the first product, and then we were like, it was the same product but a completely different design.
Yeah.
So we now had like an established relationship with this factory, so they knew what our work style was, and we were able to like skip a lot of steps because we'd done it before. But like before, it took a year plus, you know.
What about some of the best cases where the client comes in and you're just surprised, like you're taken aback by, wow, this guy or this woman understands what China's about and how we work.
Things move quicker, you know, when they're more organized and they have all the details of the product and production ready to go. They know exactly what they want. Things definitely flow smoother, but things still happen, you know. It's China, you're still going to run into roadblocks in the production process.
What would you say, like, to prepare, how can a person mentally prepare for themselves for finding a supplier in China, whether it's original design or just copy, white labeling the product? Or like, what's the best mindset that a person can adapt coming into China?
Keep in mind that even iPhones take like a year and a half to develop. Even Apple, that basically has their own factories in China, takes like a year and a half to develop their product. So why would it take you less than that? So yeah, like I think it's just, you have a better perspective when it comes to China. It takes longer. Look at examples of huge companies that have been established for a very long time and they still struggle with the Chinese market. Uber got kicked out of China. Sorry. Uber got kicked out of China basically. Like, I mean, they got paid out, but like, you know, let's call it what it is. I mean, they tried. They spent $2+ billion and they were able to even corner 30% of the market, but then they still just couldn't compete.
Yeah. Try not to have your whole business hinge around this product coming sooner than the timeline that we just said. That's a good step.
Prepare, be patient. Like whenever people ask me like, what is the biggest lesson I've learned about business here, is patience.
I actually, like, you worded it well when I spoke to you last week about how somebody had told you, just whatever happens, don't get emotional about it. Don't breathe down their neck if they make a mistake. You can, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to help. So you're just wasting your effort. I think that's a good way to keep yourself focused on, how am I going to get this done?
I think the person that told Nick that was moi.
Was that Rico? It's good advice, man.
And so speaking of development and like finding the suppliers themselves, I have my own opinions on this, but I want to hear yours. How did it change going from an outsider before you came to China, or like being outside of China, or the people that you speak to that are outside of China? How did they research suppliers versus how you guys research suppliers with having your sourcing agency?
Just to close off the last thing, because we said 6 months to a year for original design, but like OEM products, which is mostly white label and stuff, is like, it could be a month to 3 months, I'd say. It's like, yeah, it's faster, definitely. A month if they have stock. Like if they have stock, it could be 2 weeks. So yeah, just to close that out.
I was just thinking the difference between the two would be, you have quicker access to the factories here. You know, you can go travel to them, meet them, see their operation, and that.
But even before that, even finding the factories, like, for example, as an outsider perspective, like I know for me personally, only Alibaba was available. Do you guys use any other tools other than Alibaba?
Yeah, there's Chinese websites, global sources I've used in the past. I don't know how much.
And 1688. We're gonna do a 1688.
Single 8.
No, it's 88.
Sure about that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's also 168, but it's a different thing. We're gonna do a video specifically on those because I want to do a deep dive in the differences, and I want to take like screenshots showing, you know, the
made in
differences.
China also.
Made in China as well, but I think made in China is not as popular as it used to be, right?
Okay.
I think people also used to like sourcing companies used to just sell on made in China. Yeah, I think the three main, obviously Alibaba is the most famous one, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, you know, people are going to be, we search on Alibaba most of the time. However, you have to keep in mind that most of the suppliers listed there are trading companies. So you have to figure out a way of navigating, you know, what is a factory, what is a trading company. Global sources is they take more time to vet each supplier, so they have less options. But the suppliers that are there tend to be more professional. Yeah. And then 1688 is essentially the Chinese Alibaba. So like none of the factories, there were very few of them speak any sort of English whatsoever. So the one advantage of working with those guys is that you're gonna get cheaper prices for sure.
Yeah.
But it's going to be much more difficult to communicate, and they're also sometimes they've never exported internationally before, so it's just you have to weigh up those pros and cons. Like how important is it for you to save 10% on your per unit cost and then deal with a bunch of bullshit, rather than pay that extra 10% and work with a slightly more professional supplier that speaks English and is accustomed to exporting to the US or Canada or wherever.
Plus, we're working with a wide variety of suppliers, so sometimes we get quality recommendations from the suppliers that we're working with. Let them know about a new product or a problem we're having with production of one of our customers' lines, and they might recommend someone else to us as well.
Yeah, I think I find it in the community, especially like the manufacturing community, I find that there's a lot of misconceptions and just lack of understanding of the Chinese supplier point of view. You talk about that, like how do Chinese suppliers see foreigners reaching out to them on Alibaba or even coming in person like you guys do here in China? How do they view it, and what are their kind of driving factors? What are they trying to get out of the interaction? Or what are their fears even better?
I'm not sure about their fears. I mean, I imagine they're trying to build long-term relationships and have good customers. That would be the end goal for the factories. You said in the lead up to the question, like some things that people should understand about Chinese factories. Sometimes people, when they're not here, they're very sensitive to price changes from the factories. But, in my 10 years working with Chinese factories, cost of living, cost of everything has just consistently gone up the whole time we're here. So the squeeze is real on these factories, and it's more and more difficult for them to operate. Their rents are going up, the cost of labor is going up, everything around them is becoming more expensive. So you have to be able to understand that and work with them a little bit when they do require certain bumps in price.
No, I think you summarized it pretty well.
I think we got